Hey, good morning everybody. TK with Arizona Adventure Rentals here. This morning we're going to go through with the 2014 Class A Coachmen Mirada. And this is a big Class A 32 foot. We're going to go inside and show you how the inside works, show you how the outside works so you guys feel comfortable how to use it. Come on in and I'll show you a quick rundown how everything works. So here's the front of the 2014 Coachmen Mirada. I'm going to explain to you all these front switches. A lot of it's common sense, but just in case people don't know. We'll start with the leveling jacks. In order for these leveling jacks to work, it's very nice because once you get stopped somewhere, this will auto level itself. So in order for that to work, you always have to turn the RV on. There's actually emergency brake down there. You have to turn the emergency brake on. You press power and you give it about 30 seconds and then you just go ahead and press auto. This will auto level itself. So there's 4 pegs, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. If you're going to go somewhere where you're boondocking or dry camping, I make sure that you look underneath there. There's no rocks, there's no tree roots or anything, so that those sit on level grounds. There are 2x4s back there, so some people set a 2x4 up there, and there we go, we can start filling it level. Once it goes level, then this light goes green, which is an LG light. So once it goes level, you're good to go. You can shut the RV off. Then you are level. Before you leave, it's the same thing. You start the RV up, put the emergency brake on. Usually the emergency brake's already on, and you press power and you press retract all jacks. Now when those jacks go all the way up, you'll have a light here that says jacks are up. So then you know all the jacks are up. Go underneath the RV, make sure that they're up and out of the way, and then you're good to go. So that's a very good feature to have on these bigger Class A RVs, because if somebody gets up at night, not everybody knows. The next thing is your sunshade. There's a sunshade button here, so this gives you privacy. So right now we have this shade all the way down. These are all manual, so that way once you do park somewhere, you don't have any creepers or anybody looking in. Same thing with the other side, but this is an automatic switch that goes up. So as soon as you go up, you can see that this sunshade goes up and down. So sometimes it beeps, you just hold it and it will continue to go up. Other than that, your other displays here is your cruise control. This is a Ford setup chassis. So in order for cruise control, just see cruise control set. Then you have your cruise control. You have your power windows right here. Just flip those on. You have left and right windows. That's pretty basic, self-explanatory. Same thing with your headlights. You just have headlights. These are just dash buttons here. I do tell people with this bigger Class A, it is a little bit heavier. So I do push the tow button going down grades. That definitely does help. That way you don't, if you ride the brakes all the way down. If you smell brakes, I usually tell people that's because it's probably you. So as you're going down grades, push the tow mode on. As soon as you push the brakes once or twice, it downshifts for you. It's a lot better on the vehicle rather than using your brakes all the way down. So keep that in mind. If you're towing anything, going up grades, I usually like to put it on tow mode as well. This is very nice display that you have here. So as soon as you turn on the blinkers, you have side blinkers. So it's very nice. You have side blinkers. You turn left blinker on, right blinker on. You have side blinkers. You turn a reverse on and you have a reverse, and this will tell you, gauge you where you're at. So it's very easy to drive. Another common question is a Class A RV if you have to have a valid driver's license or a special CDL driver's license. Obviously you have to have a normal driver's license. There's nothing special that you need to operate this, no CDL or anything like that. The other displays on here, if you want to come back around, we'll show you here. These are just your normal AC buttons. Again, that's just kind of common sense. This is a radio button, so you flip that radio on and then you'll have radio power. Even if you turn the RV off, you can still have radio power. Just flip that on, and with that RV off, that will run off the front batteries. Auxiliary start, I'll turn that off there. You have dash fans. This will just operate your dash fans up top. Those are your fog lights down low. This is an auxiliary start. In case you kill your battery up front, you can actually use your batteries from the rear to start your vehicle up. This you can actually turn the generator on and start the generator on right there. You can hear the generator on and that light is dim, but that is illuminated so that you know that the generator's on. For up front here, I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back to the control panel. I'll show you how everything works as far as to turn the generator on, turn the water pump on, hot water, all that kind of good stuff. So let's go back there and I'll show you the control panel. Okay, so here's your control panel. All RVs have the same kind of control panel. Everything for the most part is pretty much the same. LPG is your propane. So propane is full when all those lights illuminate. That propane is full. There's a big propane tank outside. It's not one that you can take apart. It's one that you have to pull up to fill. The things that run off of your propane on this particular RV would be your hot water heater. You flip that on, you wait 10 minutes, you'll have hot water. Make sure you flip that off when you're not using it, because that's just going to burn your hot water up. The next thing would be your heater at night, and the heater at night runs off of this furnace. So if you click on this setup here on the thermostat, then you have fan, cool, furnace. So that furnace will also run off of propane. The next thing that will run off of propane would be your stove. So you have three things that stove is going to, that propane is going to run. Your hot water heater is going to be your heater at night, and is going to be your stove. As you use that, obviously those lights are going to eliminate back down. Now your battery is at 2/3. Just barely turn the generator on. How we know the generator on is because that light is on. The generator, what that does is that's going to charge your batteries up. That is going to run your air conditioning when the generator is on. You have to have the generator on to run your air conditioning. That runs off of this same thermostat. Just turn this over to cool mode, down on the thermostat, and that will run your thermostat. The next thing that the generator runs is going to be your microwave. Those are the things that you have to have the generator on to run, and the generator also charges your batteries. So you're going to need the generator on. If you're plugged in somewhere, this particular RV has a 50 amp plug. So I do have an adapter from a 50 amp down to a 30 amp, depending on what RV park you go at. The next thing is fresh water. So I do like the Class A's because they do have a lot bigger holding tanks. Right now we're at a 1/3 water. Sometimes if you're going to go somewhere where you are plugged in, there's no reason to go with the full tank of water, because water equals weight. Weight is going to mess up your gas mileage. So I usually tell people, if you're going to go somewhere where there's water, there's no reason to go full of water. In that case, I usually go with about a 1/3 tank of water. That way, if somebody wants to use the bathroom on their way, if they want to cook something, if they want to use the sink, they have a limit of fresh water. If you want to fill it up, you obviously can. Black, once you use that fresh water, if you're not plugged in somewhere and you don't have your sewage and your drainage hoses hooked up, you have a black tank and you have a gray tank. So as you use that fresh water, your toilet water is going to go in a black tank, your shower water and your sink water is going to go in a gray tank, and then eventually you're going to have to empty those out. So usually you always get the RV empty on fresh. You can if you want it full, we can give it to you full. Black is always empty and gray is always empty, and then you have an auxiliary. So black and gray is empty. As you start to use that fresh water, that's going to go up. The next is going to be your slide control room. So RV always have to be off for these slide controls to work. So basic, pretty common, simple. You just press in, press out, and this out. So that's all the way out right now. That's our front slide. In order for it to go in, you can see all you do is you press and hold in, and you can go ahead and see over there on our front slide that our whole front slide is moving in. I always have the generator on. The keys have to be off in the off position, and I usually always have the generator on, so that way you know there's sufficient volts. Another quick troubleshooting thing is that if you come over here and your batteries are empty, your slides are not going to work. So make sure your generator's on, or you have enough battery power to go in and out with these slides. The other slide is the back slide. Now that is make it to where you have a walk around bed in the back. As you bring that slide in, that will come all the way in. You can still access that bed, but it is not a walk around. Any other controls here on here? These are just light switches down low. That flips your lights on. Water pump, this is your water pump switch. If you want water pressure, you flip that on. I usually always tell people before you go to the bathroom, flip that water pressure on, switch on, so that way you can flush with the toilet. Otherwise, when you use the bathroom, nothing flushes with it. So I think that's pretty much it for your control panel here. That's just a signal for the TV switch. That usually never works unless you're somewhere closer into town. Then you can actually get a couple channels like your little bunny ears. Other than that, I think that's it for your control panel. You have your slide rooms, you have your generator, you have your water pump, and you have your hot water heater. Let's go ahead and start from the back, and we'll kind of give you a walk around from the back to the front, and then we'll go ahead and go outside. Okay, so here's the back of the RV. We're going to do a walk around from the very back up to the front. Right now we have this slide open, so this makes it a walk around slide bedroom. When that comes in, this mattress about touches that counter. This is a nice little backup area here. This actually has a separate thermostat. So this thermostat will control just this room, and this is a light for the inside this room. You actually have a TV as well, and you have a DVD player up there. So this is your TV, runs off a DVD player in there. Let's go ahead and walk our way up forward here. This is your bathroom, and pretty common sense up here. You do have a little vent up top, and this is just a sliding glass door that shuts for you to use the bathroom. I always tell people to use a water pump when you turn it on. You always flush with your foot. This is pretty common sense. This is just your shutting for the bathroom, closet area. This is a fridge. This is the only thing that's a little bit different than the others. This is your big stainless steel fridge. So this runs off of 110 volts. So there's actually a big inverter that turns it from battery power to run this fridge. It will run this fridge for about 5 hours. I usually put these Velcros on here when you get going down the road and put food down in there. That way you don't have these doors flying open and losing your food. The slide out on this main area is open as well. This table will go straight down in between these ledges here, and then you can use these cushions. That is a bed. You can actually pull this up and out, and that is your other bed. And then there's a lot of room here. So if you got more kids, you can always put an air mattress down if need be. Let me walk you out to the inverter. Now this is our inverter for this mainly just controls the fridge when the generator is not running. Now if you're plugged in somewhere with a 50 amp plug or a 30 amp plug, you don't ever have to worry about this inverter because you're going to be plugged in with electricity. If you're boondocking or if you're up in the woods, when you turn the generator off, this will automatically go into an invert mode. So right now it is inverting, it is absorbing, and it's working. When you turn the generator off, usually you go back here. If you need to press this red button once, normally you have to do that once first for the first time. Then after that, every time you turn the generator off, it will always go into invert mode. So another way to see if your fridge is on while you have the generator off is just open up the fridge or open up the freezer. If the lights are on, the fridge is on. It will, after this gets below 10 volts, which is usually 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on how much you're using the fridge or freezer, the inverter will turn off. You'll have to turn the generator on, let it charge for about an hour, and then it will run it for about another 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on where you're at and depending on how many people are getting in and out. These are just light switches inside the RV. Now what we'll do is we'll go outside and we'll show you how to dump and show you how to operate everything on the outside. Okay, so here's the outside of the RV. This is all basic common sense, all storage out here. Storage. It's all the same key to lock these, so you can open these up. This is propane. Propane is here. Usually always take it full, bring it back full. This is your valve that opens it up. This is where they top it off and fill you. Out here is more storage. Lots of storage on these Class A's, which makes it very convenient. Gasoline is here. It takes 110 gallons of gasoline, and the generator runs off that same tank, so you don't have to worry about filling up the tank for the generator, which is very convenient. This is another dump, a way if you want to empty your fresh water, you just flip those valves down. If you want to empty it, that's not normally, people don't like to or need to. This is your dump area. So anywhere you go camp, always in the left rear corner, they have a place for you to dump. And they have a place for you to get water. So city connection is always a city connection of water. That means that you'll have city pressure. So if you leave your hose hooked up to that, then you'll have city pressure. You will not need the water pump. This other hose says sewer tank flush. So that's exactly what that is. That is a sewer tank flush. You only hook up your hose to that when you have the black valve open, which is this valve, and when you have your hose hooked up. So after you get dumping everything, and those valves are open, I like to close gray and run that freshwater hose through there for just a couple minutes, and the end of the hose is clear. So after it runs out clear, then you know your system is full or is cleaned up. Now make sure that you do not fill this thinking you're filling full of fresh water, because this will fill up your black tank, and I've had people do that. This is city connection, and this will not fill up your water tank. This will just give you pressure. This is for your potable water. So this is where you're going to hold your 110 gallons of fresh water. Stick your hose in there, turn on the valve. Right now we only have a third tank, what I showed you inside. As you fill that up, those displays will go full. As this fills up, then you'll have an overflow down in the middle of the RV. So once that comes down in the middle of the RV, then you know you're full. Your hose is up in the front compartment. That hose is a half a clip on, goes down this hole, down to wherever you're going to dump. If you're going to dump somewhere, you always pull black, which is your black it will drain in about 15 seconds. Then you shut it, help everything out of the hose, and then you pull gray, and that cleans out your system. If you don't have enough gray to fill it out, then of course you can use your freshwater hose, and that will actually run water through your black tank and flush out your hose at the same time. So that's a very convenient thing to have so that things don't get gross. Now over here is just a generator, which you won't need to get into. This here is what you would need to get into. This is a 50 amp plug. So most all resorts have a 50 amp plug. I do give people this adapter, and this is a nice adapter to have in case you go somewhere that only has a 30 amp plug. Then this gives you a 30 amp plug. There's 2 air conditionings and there's 2 thermostats that we showed you in there. So if you run this 30 amp plug, you probably won't be able to run both air conditionings at the same time. So you'll have to run one air conditioning or the other. Now this is an adapter I give people that goes into a 110 outlet. Now you can use this. This is basically to run your TVs, to charge your batteries, and that's about it, to run all your lights inside. But you cannot run air conditioning off this little adapter. This will get hot, this will break and melt. So you can run everything but basically your air conditioning and your microwave. So if you're plugging into your side of your house, this is convenient to have. Then you don't have to worry about your batteries dying. You can go in there and watch a movie, those types of things. Now before you leave, it's very common that people don't plug this plug back in. You have a female outlet inside there, and the generator power comes from that female outlet. So when you leave somewhere, if you plug in to resort, once you plug in, there's no reason you need to have the generator on once this 50 amp or that 30 amp is plugged in. Just make sure when you leave, you plug it back into this outlet. And there's an outlet inside here, and when you plug that outlet back in, then your generator power comes from that outlet. So very common, people just wind up the hose and then they just stick it in there, and they call me and say, hey, the generator's running, but it's not powering anything. Well, the first thing I tell people is make sure that that's plugged in and make sure it's plugged in securely, and then you'll be good to go. Other than that, your last few things are your storage. This is your dump hose, and this is your freshwater hose. So this is storage from one side all the way to the other, and that's pretty much it. The front area is your leveling jacks. That you don't need to get into. That's just an access panel for your leveling jacks. And that's pretty much it for the 14 Coachmen Mirada. If you guys have any questions or anything, just go ahead and reach out, like and subscribe. If anything, how we can improve on how to operate this. And hopefully this gives you a little bit more of a rundown, so once you come pick this up to rent it here in Phoenix, Arizona, then you feel a little more comfortable on what you're renting.